Happy end of June, everybody. Hopefully you had a good month. I know I had a good month because it was my birthday. And now I have a fear of growing old and dying. So before I get started, I just wanted to say it was E3 recently. If you don't know what E3 is, it's basically like the biggest video game convention in the world. It's where all the developers and stuff announce their new games and new consoles and all that stuff. Which means a good chunk of this video is going to be dedicated to games that are coming out because some of them have me super excited. The first thing I wanted to talk about is a game that's coming out called For Honor. Originally I wasn't super excited about this game because it didn't look like anything new, but when I saw some more footage from it, it looked amazing. Basically the concept is Vikings versus knights versus samurai, which kind of sounded too good to be true. Then they released a lot more footage from it and it looked kind of awesome. It sort of seems to have like a Dynasty Warriors feel where you're kind of running around a battlefield killing all kind of lesser NPCs. But the thing is, it's like 4 players versus 4 players and then this giant NPC army on either side that's fighting each other. You can probably just fight the other enemy NPC army. You don't have to go near another player, so you don't gotta feel like you're terrible at the game. You can just kill these like useless NPCs, feel like a boss. But in saying that, the thing that has me really excited is seeing how players fight each other, just with like the different stances and everything. From what I can tell, the fighting kind of system in it is based on real techniques and real swordsmanship. So it doesn't look like you're just kind of swinging a giant sword and there's guys flying around everywhere. It's real kind of techniques and stuff. From what I can tell, it looks like they figured out a way to kind of implement a proper fighting style into a controller. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but just watch any video you can from it and you'll kind of get what I mean. Another thing that I've heard is that you can customize your character, so like you can have custom armor on your knight or samurai or Viking, which kind of adds a lot to it for me because that's like my favorite part of video games, is like customizing your main character to make him look all cool and stuff. I think when it comes out I'm probably gonna play as a samurai because that'd be pretty freaking cool. So next up, it's a bit more tech orientated and maybe some people won't find it as interesting, but it's something I got recently that I wanted to share with people, and that's the solid state hard drive from Samsung. But even if you don't know anything about computers, I definitely recommend looking up what an SSD is. It makes your computer turn on like fucking lightning. So a lot of programs like Adobe Premiere or After Effects and stuff, they've all of a sudden got super fast, like they open instantly. Since they've gotten a bit older and my drives have been filled up and stuff like that, it would take maybe like 10 minutes to boot up and turn on properly. Now when I turn it on, it takes like 15 seconds. So it took me a while to figure out how to do it. I had a lot of people giving me a hand with it. It's kind of confusing at first when you're putting it in, but I can definitely tell you it's really worth it. Really, when it comes down to it, you're just kind of putting it into your computer and plugging in a wire and that's it. It's just because I put my computer together wrong, basically, that it took me ages to put it in. The one that I ended up getting was about €140 and it was 250 gigabytes big. You don't need them that big because you can just boot your computer off of them. So you don't need to put that much onto the actual disc unless you really need to use it or if it's something you use a lot. Definitely worth it. Next up is another game that got announced at E3 and it's one that I've been waiting years for. And I mean literally years for. It's called The Last Guardian and basically it's like a sequel. I'm thinking potentially prequel to Shadow of the Colossus and I guess Ico, which if you don't know what these games are, they came out in the PlayStation 2, I think. They've been remastered for PlayStation 3 since. These were games that had like super interesting mechanics, especially Shadow of the Colossus. Shadow of the Colossus was super cinematic. There's only like, I think 16 enemies in the whole game and they're like 100 times bigger than you are. And you have to climb up them, fight them, go root it out, play it. It's one of the most like cinematic, artistic and just fun games on the PlayStation 2. Probably in my top 5 games. Anyway, The Last Guardian was announced years ago, like probably about a year after Shadow of the Colossus. Then it just kind of disappeared and nobody really knew what happened to it. So everyone kind of gave up that it was ever coming out because there was footage released and everything from it. And then this past E3, it got announced that they are still moving ahead with it and they had all this new footage and all these new kind of little mechanics and stuff to show. Basically it seems to be about a little boy trapped in like an ancient temple and he's made friends with this giant like monster creature thing that's kind of adorable but scary, and it's the two of them kind of working together to, I'm guessing, escape, but it's kind of neither one can get out of there on their own, so they've teamed up and they're, you know, working their way out. It really seems like Ico and Shadow of the Colossus really mixed together. It kind of has elements from both in that like you can climb up this monster and stuff the same way you can climb up monsters in Shadow of the Colossus, but it's just you and your buddy like in Ico. I don't know if it'll reach the same standard as Shadow of the Colossus because I just don't know how you can top that game. It's incredible. But the guys who make it are known for making like kind of artistic and revolutionary kind of games, so I'm pretty hopeful for it. Just before I go on, I just wanted to mention real quick that I'm not mentioning studio names because I think that people tend to be really biased about the studio that's making a game, and then they don't look at the good points of the game. So I'm just gonna not mention who's making it. If you want to learn more, I'll put links down in the description below. Maybe I'm overthinking it a little, I don't know. Next thing I wanted to talk about is something I've kind of had my eye on for a while now, but I was never in a position to have any kind of first-hand experience with it. Basically, it's this thing called Ludo Sport. I always thought it took place in like Italy and America and stuff like that, but I recently found out it's in Ireland as well. Basically, it's lightsaber fighting. And okay, yeah, that might sound dumb, but it looks really fucking fun. I don't think there's a lot of like self-defense worth to it, but in saying that, it still looks really fun. It seems to be really like more of a performance type thing, which is pretty cool. And basically it's, people have made like fighting styles for lightsabers, and they go out and they practice and they train. And I've seen a couple of like flash mobs around Italy where a bunch of like Jedi and Sith will just meet up and beat the shit out of each other. But it'll look awesome, like all this kind of spinning and like flips and all this stuff. And I know there's companies out there that make like custom sparring lightsabers, so you can have a really cool like hilt designed by you with all these different pieces and stuff, or like double-sided, or like spikes coming out of it and stuff like that. I only found out recently that there was somewhere in Ireland that actually does it, so maybe I'll make a video of me going and trying it sometime. If you are a Star Wars fan and this sounds like the kind of thing you'd be into, I'll leave a link down in the description. Gonna get me a sweet red lightsaber. What? The dark side gets to shoot freaking lightning out of their fingers. Of course I'm gonna choose those guys. Right, so the last thing I want to talk about is another game from E3, and it's kind of, to me, it feels like the most sort of important one, if it's what I think it is. It's a game called Hellblade, which sounds kind of cheesier than it actually is. So basically, this storyline is the main character has survived, or is in the middle of like this Viking invasion, and it's left them really like scarred and kind of, they have problems. So it's, all of it is told through the eyes of someone with a mental disorder or a mental illness. I think it's going to probably be focusing on like PTSD or survivor's guilt. So to me, the kind of theme of this game, you know, it dealing with like mental illness and stuff like that, kind of makes it a bit more important than the other titles that were announced. And from what I can tell, it's kind of been overlooked at E3. Not a lot of people are really talking about it that much. It also looks like a really good game. Like the combat looks pretty gritty and like realistic. Like it's not all these fucking super complicated combos and flips and jumping around. The little bit of gameplay footage that I've seen from it is the main character's kind of like desperately swinging their sword and like getting knocked around. And it seems like the different enemies and stuff like that are really things that are going on inside her mind. Maybe it's pointless for me to point it out, but the main character is also like this female warrior. So, I mean, a strong female protagonist is something that isn't really seen that much in games yet. So it looks like it's just going to be a good game with kind of an important message to it, which is super important, and I hope more people find out about it. That's all the things I wanted to talk about in this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Just before I sign off, I wanted to mention that I'm going to be helping out at ArcadeCon next weekend. That's the dates that have come up on the screen right now. So anyone from Ireland or other countries that are going to be attending and you see me around there, please come up and say hello. That'd be awesome. I'm hoping to do a couple of videos from around the event, which I think will be really fun. If you haven't heard of ArcadeCon and you're looking it up now, if tickets are sold out when this video goes up, apparently you can still buy tickets on the door, so don't give up if you still really want to attend. But definitely come along and say hello and have a good time. I'm interested to hear what you guys thought of E3, or like some of the things shown there, or just things that you think I should look up in future, and maybe I can make a video about them as well. Definitely have a chat with me in the comment section below, or you could tweet at me on Twitter, or like my page on Facebook and we can have a chat there. If you did like this video, you can hit the like button down below, and you don't have to, but I'd really appreciate it if you hit the share button down below as well and just kind of got this video out there a little bit. If you want to see more of my videos, you could hit the subscribe button down below, and I'd really appreciate that too. I hope you guys all had a really good June, and thanks for watching.